Okay, we've gone live.
Hello and welcome. A very good evening to all of you. Thank you for joining once again. I'm Kinnari from the School of Education at Azim Premji University and my colleague Rishikesh. Both of us are back today with you with the 9th episode of this series, The First 1,000 Days and Beyond, looking at the early childhood sector. What does it entail, and what is it that we as a society need to largely think about and begin to offer in terms of the care and education of young children. Today is again a special speaker with us. I request Rishikesh to please introduce our 9th speaker for today and help us widen our perspective towards what in India today is the sector like, and what is it that we still need to do towards young children's care. Over to you, Rishi.
Yeah, thanks, Kinnari. Yeah, that's right. I think today's speaker is going to help us do that because we've not had anyone from this space within the ECCE domain. So I'm very pleased to have as our speaker today, Ms. Arshleen Kalra. She is the head of academics at KLAY Preschool and Daycare. Very quick introduction, Arshleen, if I may. Your global experience is something a lot of us would really, be excited to hear about as well. Arshleen has worked pretty much across the world, UAE, East Africa, South Africa, in the US, as well as in Latin America. She has spent nearly a decade or more, in the entire school space, not just the preschool, but the entire K-12 as well as universities. And she's also worked contributing to the national policy in the development in rural entrepreneurship, and worked with organizations or in collaboration with organizations like the ILO and the World Bank. So Arshleen currently is the head of academics, which basically means that she's leading the operations of over 170 centers for the KLAY Preschool and Daycare, looking at operations, strategy, curriculum design, program evaluation, and the holistic child development aspects. So a lot of experience, a lot of things that many of us would be, very keen to engage with. And hence, Arshleen, what we would be hearing would be something which would be very insightful for us. And so welcome to our series. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation.
Thank you so much, Kinnari and Rishikesh, for having me here. And good evening, everyone. So this topic is very close to my heart, and I'm also looking forward to insightful discussions here. So thank you so much for having me here.
Most welcome. And so, Arshleen, let's begin with hearing about your personal journey. I mean, you seem to have worked pretty much everywhere, and what is it that took you to the ECCE space? Was it something that you always planned to work in and hence prepared and qualified, or was there something else that got you into this domain? We would love to hear about your personal journey, if you can share.
Sure. First of all, thank you for that warm introduction. So I come across this question quite a lot, why early years education? Because I started my career in learning and development, and almost for 10 years of my professional journey, I was working with corporates. And you talk about any domain, any methodology with respect to adult learning training programs, training interventions, you name it, and I would have done that. But one of those self-reflection sessions, and I just asked myself that, do I want to spend my life looking at competency maps? And the answer was big no. And hence, I moved into the skill development phase and worked with NSTC, worked with ILO, World Bank, started and did work with many NGOs in the social space, worked for the causes like educating girl child, women empowerment, economic empowerment per se, rural entrepreneurship, female health and hygiene. And while I was working in the skill development space, I continued to work in this domain in other countries as well, like South Africa, East Africa, Malaysia, Mexico, US for that matter. And
Yeah, I missed out. I missed out on ASEAN when I was talking of the countries that you worked in. Yeah.
yes, so in 2014, when World Economic Forum, they came out with their future of jobs report, and there was a very strong statement they spoke about that 65% of children who are going to primary years will end up doing jobs which do not exist today. That made all of us realized who were working in this domain of skill development and job readiness, that we need to do something in the schooling space, right? We need to help children or prepare children for the future. And at that time, I was working with the training arm of GEMS Education. And as a part of the organization, I created a learning pathway on 21st century skills. And that got so that was implemented across schools, mostly GEM schools across the globe. And then again, another realization happened, that if I really want to work in this space wherein I want to work in the domain to prepare children for the future, then why not start from the beginning, right? And that's how early years education happened. That's how KLAY happened for me. And I must say that the transition from andragogy to pedagogy has been really exciting for me. And now I can say that my heart is in the right place. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
lovely.
I mean,
Lovely.
yeah,
Yeah.
lovely. Yes,
Mm.
yeah. No, I was just thinking that the spectrum that you've covered and really the life cycle approach. Our earlier webinar speaker was really talking about women, adolescent health, and then looking into skills. You've really kind of looked at it, globally and through your work at different stages, and now you're really starting early. I mean, with young children. So. Just again, as being our first speaker from the
Mhm.
private sector, if you could help us outline and understand what the sector in India is about today, right? And what are some of the potential as well as challenges and some trends as far as the
Mhm.
early years sector. It is, we say that it's a huge, industry. I mean, as
Yeah.
far as investment is concerned.
Mhm.
And yeah, so your views on the sector today as it is in India, its challenges and some of the
Sure.
potential that you see. Yeah.
Sure. So, when we talk about this sector in India, I would say it is growing at an incredible rate. If I have to quote the published numbers in 2023, the market size reported for this industry was around 900 plus $1 million. And it's expected to grow to $7 billion by 2028. So that is going to be a massive leap if we have to talk about it. But it's very important to understand here that what is driving this growth, and I can probably talk more about the urban areas, that what is driving this growth in urban India. And the first thing which comes to my mind is the nuclear families, wherein both the parents are working, and there is a very high demand for quality childcare, right? Uh, at the same time, disposable income. Parents or families do want to spend on early childhood education. They want to give that quality care to their children. Then, growing awareness on the importance of early years education. There was a time when, there, and it still is there. I'm not saying that the perception has changed completely, but to some extent, people have started giving that due importance to early years education. There were times that people would say only, the real education starts from grade 1. So that perspective is changing gradually, which is also contributing to the growth of this industry because it is leading to the demand of the preschools. And one of the critical factors which is driving the growth is, I would say, corporates prioritizing uh, friendly workplaces for their employees. So we have corporates who are, it's not about being compliant to maternity benefit act, which actually clearly states that if you have 50 employees in the organization, you should provide a creche to that employee to support a child who is in the age group of 6 months to 6 years. So it's not only about compliance here. I would say that they truly want to support the working parents because nuclear families has become a culture in urban India. They truly want to support them to achieve their work-life balance. And at the same time, they have their diversity goals as well to achieve, helping women come back to work after a maternity break. So there's so many things which are contributing to the growth of this sector. But if you talk about the growth, there is a real potential, but the challenges still remain. And the challenges I'm talking about here is accessibility and the quality of the services. Uh, these still continue to be there. With respect to this sector, uh, who is looking at say quality of learning in the preschools, efficacy of the curriculum, the skill set of the teachers? Who is monitoring that, right? Nobody is. There could be certain benchmarks, there could be certain guidelines provided by NEP for the foundational stage. But one, has it been implemented? And second, if it has been implemented, who is the governing body, who is monitoring it to ensure that the quality is getting delivered? One piece. Second, that I think this sector needs to be more organized. We need more standardization when we talk about preschool and early years childhood education. Reason being that there are so many schools which are mushrooming today, right? So yes, there is a potential, but beyond that, there's another area which is basically advocacy, right? We say that first 1,000 days of a child's life are really really important, and they lay the foundation for lifelong learning and development of the child. But yet there's still a gap in awareness, right? So there's a lot of push we need to do in terms of policy. We need to keep pushing policy for better and we need to keep pushing for better policies, infrastructure, teacher training programs, to bridge that gap, and a lot of awareness for parents that why early years education is important, and at the same time a lot of awareness for the big schools or the main schools, that they need to understand that when the child enters grade 1, the expectation from a child is really really high, and the child is not ready at that point in time, right? So those are the things with advocacy, with more awareness, I think collectively we all need to solve for. Yes, the landscape is exciting. There is a lot of potential, but I think it's a long way for us. It's a long journey to reach, for us to reach at a point wherein the quality early years education is accessible to all. So I think that's my take on the industry.
Right. Thank you. I mean, outlining the potential of the sector that it is and is likely to become, with more and more parents moving into urban areas. And like you were saying, the industry needs to also cater to their needs and demands as nuclear families. And the challenges. I think it's absolutely. We've been talking about the government sector, the public sector, and the scale of it for the last many episodes, and then the problems or the challenges within the sector don't seem to be really very different from
Yeah.
what we see in the private sector. And perhaps here they are even more intense as far as the stake and degrees are concerned. I mean, just the range of quality within the private sector is likely to be quite different, given what we call as for profit can go from a $1 a month kind of a fee structure to several dollars a month as
Yes,
fee structures
absolutely.
for affordable, incomes. Yeah. Yeah, Rishi, over
Yeah.
to you.
No, I mean, Ashley, so while you were talking about, now that there is this awareness that, education begins early, and it's not that at grade one that it starts. It kind of also gets reflected in some of the data that I think we are getting. Most recent one was the ASER report for 2024,
Hmm.
showing that nearly 80% of preschool age going children in the country now are enrolled in some formal institutional space. So in that sense there seems to be that awareness. But I think what you were also talking of when you were mentioning advocacy and awareness is also as to what kind of
Yes.
education, right? What is
Yeah.
it that needs to happen? I mean, when we say
Yeah.
education, because care is of course something that they understand, most people. But then when we talk about education, and in the age band of 3 to 6, what
Yes.
is it that we mean by that, right? So would you like to throw some light on that? I mean, given that also curriculum design is something that you also oversee, how do you think through this, and how is it that you, for instance, convince parents that this is what is required, and not probably some imagination that they may have of preschool, which could even be just getting ready for tackling grade one? So how do you
Yeah.
go about it?
So I think when we talk about parents, they want everything, right? They want best curriculum, they want safety, they want holistic development of the child, and that's where the frameworks, that the curriculum which we devise and design, and the awareness about the curriculum, that it needs to be developmentally appropriate, why play is important, because children love children learn, play comes naturally to them. When they are engaged in play, they learn, and they don't even realize that they are learning. So awareness about play-based learning, awareness about a combination of structured curriculum wherein you have a structured learning plus freedom to explore and learn on your own pace comes into picture. So at KLAY, and I can only talk about KLAY at this point in time. What the kind of curriculum we follow, it's holistic in nature. We look at all the learning domains, and our curriculum is a blend of both structured learning and free exploration, and that's what we explain it to the parent. So the curriculum is inspired by the theory of multiple intelligences and regio approach, wherein the idea is not to follow a traditional classroom setup, but to introduce learning centers to children, which could be dedicated spaces for early math, early language, arts, pretend play, where the children can just go back, explore as per their interests. So we take time to educate the parent that every child is different, their need and their choices to learn could be different based upon the multiple intelligences approach. At the same time, our curriculum is also very well aligned with Reggio's inquiry based learning. So though it starts with the theme, the teacher from a guided approach, but we allow children to lead the conversations because that's what we want them to do, and that's how we explain it to the parents that this is how a child is learning, because they already have so much of knowledge because of the observations they learn every day. Every connection they make with the environment, they are learning something new. So there's already a knowledge which is there. Inquiry based learning is going to help them build on that knowledge, right?
Mm.
Then guided role plays which help them to connect with the real world. then field visits, culminations, and the one of the things which we introduced this year, and this year is going to be the third term for that new methodology, is the collaborative observation. So there are so many skills teachers expose children to in the classrooms, and they observe them over a period of time. But at the same time, we also involve the parents in that observation. We send some of the work at home and we ask them to create a video and share their observations with us. And that observation becomes a part of their progress report card. Right, so it becomes a collaborative approach, because when we talk about this age group, this is not one person's job. It takes a village to raise a child. So we partner with the parents. We involve them in each and every milestone the child achieves in one way or the other, and we also involve them in the observation process, so that by the end of the term, when the report is being shared with them, or the observations we had in our classroom we share with them, they are already a part of it, they are aware of it. Then the conversation is about how we can help the child in achieving those milestones, versus what we did not do or what we should be doing. So
Right.
that's the idea, and that's the approach we follow at KLAY.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this tug of war between structured learning and free exploration, right? I mean, that striking that balance is
Yes.
really, I think, at the heart of how you go about designing uh, everything. And the
Yeah.
other point that you made, I think that that the child is having a seamless journey, and hence everyone needs to come together, right? A very
Yes.
critical point that all the other adult stakeholders in a formal institution, of course, play a certain role, but then the other adults beyond the formal institutions, particularly at home, uh, also have an equally important role to play. And so you seem to have kind of woven it into what you do. So that's wonderful to hear. Sorry, you were about to say something else.
Yeah, yeah. I was just adding on to that point that yes, it is very important, because child needs a combination of structured learning and free exploration. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Right.
I had a couple
uh,
of questions.
Kinder, yeah, sure.
Yes, you want to complete? Yeah, please go ahead, Rishi.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Kinry.
Okay, yeah. So a couple of things, you mentioned about your work in the skills framework area and looking at
Mhm.
future ready children, right? That's one
Yes.
of the mindsets that today's parents have, that what are we doing with young children today for a very different society we are anticipating 20 years from now. So what is
Yes.
Clay's approach towards that? And
Yeah.
also to add, since the 6 months to 3 years continuum, and looking at the 3 to 6 and then the grade one, are there some underlying principles that you look at, or you feel should be valued in general as a good quality early childhood curricula? What would be some of those principles?
So, Kennedy, when we create the curriculum, we definitely look at the entry requirements of grade one, because that's the starting point. And we also look at the developmental milestones, which, as per the age, the child is expected to achieve. Looking both the aspects and within the framework of playway learning, we curate an integrated program. And when we talk about 21st century skills or future ready skills, these are already integrated in the curriculum itself, because since it's a play-based learning program, any activity a child gets exposed to, the child is communicating, then child is collaborating, child is learning, doing peer learning, they're learning from each other, they are engaging in conversations. And then these activities are, or these lesson plans are intentionally curated or designed in such a manner that all these important life skills become a part of it. Like, even if they are playing a game in and they are expected to take turns, they are expected to take a no as an answer is helping them build resilience, right? Because when we say that we should not say no to the children, no, that's no is also an option, right? Losing is also an option. uh, and with respect to additional skills, there are many other skills which are a part of the curriculum, and a lot of schools have adopted that. Public speaking, helping children build that confidence, which makes them not only school ready but life beyond school. STEAM based, we have a STEAM lab in our schools because we want to develop that scientific temperament amongst children, right? Then computational skills, which is mainly problem solving, pre-coding skills, which is also being recommended in NEP. And a lot of grade one onwards, a lot of schools have adopted this skill as one of the core aspects of their curriculum. So it's kind of becomes an exploratory skill which makes them big school ready. Then helping them become independent. So EPL is one of the core of our curriculum, but it doesn't just happen in silos. So when I'm having my meal, I'm eating, I'm supposed to keep my plate back in the on the table or back to the kitchen. That is making me independent, right? When I'm having a meal, I'm talking about the health benefits of what I'm eating, having conversation with my peers, with my friends, with my teachers. That's developing conversational skills. So we curate these experiences as intentional teaching, wherein the child doesn't understand or know that this is happening, but a teacher knows that this is happening. Some few things are very structured, few things are free flowing. But at the end of the day, our endeavor is that the learning should be joyful, it should be meaningful, and it should be led by curiosity, right? So that's the idea.
Right. Yeah. So I think what you highlighted as the range of skills, so to say, right, are so central to our everyday lives. I mean, it
Yes.
is the continuity between what children would experience at home, what they would experience in a full daycare or a preschool setup, need not be very different experiences. They
Yes.
actually kind of continue, and the range of explorations, communications, public speaking, all of that you just mentioned, are broad life skills we anyway ought to help our children develop over time. So what I understand is that in that sense, future readiness seems to be a myth, right? It is the core of learning and development in any quality early childhood program, which really would need to be interwoven into our good quality early childhood curricula, instead of focused on just preparing them towards grade one, or getting them into literacy and numeracy aspects alone. So yeah, that's a very helpful kind of a perspective to have, to say that it's actually the core human skills of working with people, talking to people, problem solving, thinking, which need to be seen as skills required for future readiness. Yeah.
So I just wanted to comment on this. Earlier, Kinnari, when I was wanting to say something, but then I said, you should go ahead. Was a connect to the engagement with the parents, right?
Mhm.
So is there anything that you find as a challenge? Because of course you work with probably well aware and urban parents who are already in the know of the importance of early childhood education, it being holistic, and some of the things that you just explained, which is using various kinds of daily activities to ensure that some of these things are imbibed. But while you go about delivering this curriculum and creating this joyful learning space, is there any challenge that comes from parents who probably would push you to do something else that need not necessarily be something that we educators feel is the appropriate thing in a early learning space? Any
Yes.
insights on that front?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, there are so many instances. Yes, we do work with parents who are well aware, but at the same time, I think they also come from that conditioning that they still feel that, how do I put it? Advancement in the skill equals smarter children. So what they want the child is to learn or uh, get learn the numeracy and literacy concepts more versus other aspects, right? The focus is more on that my child should know, 1 to 100, or should be able to write these three letter words or read these sentences, which is understandable, right? Because that's the expectation of grade 1 today. Then they also see or feel a lot of competition from their own peer level, right? My child is going to go to this school, where does your child go to? And societal expectations, right? So yes, there are so many things which they expect from a school, but we take time to make them understand that yes, academic success is important, but that happens at their own pace. Children learn at their own pace. We can't push things to them. Even if we push, it will end up a rote learning. They'll just end up memorizing numbers or letters and things like that. They will not build on the concepts. How does it doesn't make sense for a child to be able to count or say counting till 1 to 10 if the child is not able to associate or quantify, right? So the focus in early years education is to build on the foundation and not rote learning. Play is important. Many parents still feel that play is frivolous. You know, they feel that preschool is a place wherein my child just go, plays with other children, and come back. Right? So we do take time in sharing the work samples with them to keep them involved in the learning journey. And when we share a work sample, we tell them that this is what the child did, this is the learning outcome, and this is how it's going to help them in the future, so that they do not just look at a work sample and say, oh, it's just art, right? Because when the child is involved in that activity, be it art, the child is also exposed to probably a pre-math concept. They are working on their fine motor skills, which is important for the success or future success in for the writing skills in the future, helping them develop that strength in the fingers. So we because this early years domain is not traditional the way the schools, the other schools, and children in other schools go through. When you will never see a child sitting on a desk doing some writing and saying that, see, hey, I have learned, right? Young children are learning throughout the day. They don't need a paper and pen to demonstrate that they are learning. So that's what the kind of conversations we keep having with the parents, counseling sessions. We do have those focused curriculum discussions with the parents, that what can you expect in the next 2 months, what is the methodology we use, why do we use this, how it's going to help the child achieve their learning outcomes. And if the focus is reading and writing, we tell them what is developmentally appropriate for the child. We do get pushback for writing sometimes, and then we tell them, hey, that's not possible. There are certain principles which we do not go against. Like, there could be some parent who come back and say, my child is 2.5 years old, he or she has not started writing with a pencil, and we just say, sorry, it's not going to happen. So that's how it is.
Yeah, yeah. At the policy level, in fact, one of the reasons why in the national education policy, the foundational stage is looked at to be from 3 to 8 years, or going
Exactly.
into the current grade 1 and 2,
Yes.
is in some sense to also address this, right? I mean, this whole thing of
Absolutely.
at grade 1, children need to do all these things. They're going into the school, and hence at the pre-primary, many parents kind of pushing back many schools who fall for it in
Yeah.
terms of the demand that comes from their so-called customers.
Yeah.
And so foundational stage, as you know, you would know,
Yeah, high
is
high
important.
time. I think we should take the learnings from NAP and start implementing. And especially from a policy point of view, I think we definitely need to bring grade one and grade two under the fold of preschools, because that's where this problem will get solved.
Yeah, there's unfortunately another interpretation that is made of foundational stage, which is one of those many myths, right? That has to be busted. So one of the interpretation is that the pre-primary has to now move into grade one and two, right? So those who do not go into NEP, they say, oh yeah, foundational stage, because everyone
Yes.
has to move now into one and two.
Yeah.
Well, hope that foundational stage is understood appropriately by
Yeah.
everyone. Right.
True, true, true. I mean, I've also heard people talking about the same thing. So yeah, I.
Yeah, I again on the question of parents
Mhm.
and the demands today, right? We see technology everywhere, and perhaps the parents, especially in our urban context today, and children, therefore, right, are engaged with technology a good portion of their day. How do you kind of see this engagement, and how do you again advocate for a technology free or a device free environment for children, if I may say so, or how do you really integrate it, in the early years period, especially again the very young children, the birth to three, given the guidelines that are there, and further on, yeah.
So, Kinley, when we talk about technology, I think we can't shy away from technology, right? But there are multiple aspects of technology when we talk about early years space. And the answer is yes, no, and another yes. So, yes, we need technology, but we can definitely and extensively use technology in operational efficiency, parent communication, also curriculum development. There are sophisticated AI tools which are currently supporting instructional designers and guiding them to create or curate individualized learning plans or customized learning plans. I would rather say developmentally appropriate lesson plans, because I've seen that happening. So that is one part of technology. Now, when we talk about integrating technology in the classrooms, it is a no, or if it is a yes, then it has to be really, really thoughtful and mindful. Now, technology can enhance the learning experience if we are able to curate immersive learning for children. But if we are just showing a jingle or a rhyme on a tablet or projecting it on the screen, it is not helping any child, right? Rather, we would want a teacher to do that and make a connect with the child versus showing something on the screen. But when we talk about new age tools, new age technologies like AR, VR, which can give some immersive experience to children, which can also help in tracking the progress, which can be skill based, mapped with the particular skills, and at the same time keep the child actively engaged. Those are the things we should look at. I would love our children to do a virtual reality tour of Eiffel Tower, or visit a farm in Canada sitting out here in the classrooms, right? That is the kind of experience we should bring into the classrooms if we have an access to such tools. But yes, a regular screen time, I think that's a big no, because it does not actively involve children in their learning. But when we talk about the technology space in early years education, I think we are still not there. This space, this technology needs to evolve a lot to be able to get integrated in the classrooms today. Yeah.
Interesting perspective again, I think, in the sense that you're basically saying that if technology is helping create context for children where they
Yeah.
are again actively able to visualize an Eiffel Tower, the scale of it, what does it mean, it's perhaps again aiding their learning in the
Yes.
way that they see, or hear of things. And of course, you're talking of a certain group of children, certain class of children, right, who would going to a farm perhaps can well be done in a field trip that you said, right? But if you're looking
Yeah.
at other experiences, and how does virtual
Yeah.
reality really help as against and technology for supporting adults and caregivers in order to help them think. I think that's one of the areas in which AI today is highly promoted, to say that can it really help you think and expand your planning capabilities, your imagination capabilities,
Absolutely.
so that you can deliver. And I think that's again a well formulated view to say that it's not the passive learning environment that we want technology to be there inside classrooms as screens, but rather there should be active ways in which they are integrated both for the adult and for the children. So again, an interesting
Absolutely.
perspective. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is another myth that is there, right? That the technology can come in for doing multiple things.
Yeah.
In fact, there are multiple myths on technology that needs to be busted. So thanks, Arshleen, for that. I think that's one myth, hopefully busted well. Any other such myths? Yeah.
No, actually, I'm just thinking about one instance which happened, and we were evaluating technological tools, which we can bring into the classroom. And someone came and said, you can do tracing on an iPad. A child will develop pre-writing skills. And I was like, no, that's not what we are looking at. We want our children to use their fingers, experience textures, and then develop that pre-writing skills versus, doing on an iPad. So that, like I said, you have to be very mindful of what you're going to introduce in the classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other such myths that you think needs to be busted, which is really out there, loud, screaming, wanting to come into the education space, and we know that it's not just unwelcome, it's dangerous as well.
Yeah,
Like for
yeah.
instance, some of the things that you mentioned.
So I think one of the other myths I'd like to talk about is the perception of preschools. I mean, there are that there is a saying that preschool is just daycare, right? But first first of all, both are different concepts altogether. But even if you are, there is an overlap which happens both in preschool as well as daycare, but learning is happening in both the spaces. However, there has to be a mindset change about preschools and it's not only parents, and I also, this is an appeal to the big schools as well. Look at preschool as a complete holistic environment which is helping a child develop future readiness, not for only for schools, beyond schools, for life. Because we keep saying that first 5 years are so critical, and all of us agree who are in this education industry or domain. But at the same time, we also look at preschool as an environment wherein the child just is going, playing, napping, eating, and things like that. No, give the due respect, due acknowledgement to the industry. The lot goes behind in setting up a school, ensuring that the children are learning and learning all the times, are being engaged constructively, and are happy all the times. So yes, it is a school, it is a real school which is helping children develop the requisite skills needed. So that is one myth when we see parents just casually talking about, it's just a preschool. No, so I think that is something they all need to understand, that this is a real school.
Right.
And
In fact, our webinar series, in some sense, one of the things that we are trying to do is also to kind of create this awareness as to how critical this period is, 1,000 days
yes,
and beyond, so from birth onwards, and at the same time how there are many things that needs to be happening, which is well thought out and in a partnership between early childhood educators, parents, caregivers, multiple stakeholders. That's really what we're trying to do in through these webinars.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and I think the status that the sector deserves, right? Like you said, the industry needs to be really understood. We are
Absolutely.
either in a frame where we say that it's the 10th grade that is important, the 12th grade that is important, and we were working constantly towards that instead of paying this attention to the young children who's right in front of you, right? So the foundational stage, the notions of it, the policy has come up with now Navchetna, a very well thought through
Yeah.
early stimulation package and a perspective on that. So while I think the policy thinking is there, but how are we looking at society, starting
Mhm.
from parents to the school administrators? And I think the perspective you're giving as a organization working in the space, and the thinking that goes behind it, I think is quite valuable to understand, as individuals, as professionals, as parents, as to be parents, I would think. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so
Mm,
doing this must be quite a challenge, right, Arshleen? So I mean, uh, it's not just about parents not understanding. It's about most of
Mhm.
us had not understood this, and only if
Yes.
we were in the space, we were being able to understand. So for you, a challenge could also be to find educators who can join you in this journey. How
Yes.
have you gone about that? How do you get your teachers? How do you identify them? So if you could share some thoughts.
So yes, I mean, I resonate with you on this, that finding the right kind of a talent in this industry is really really difficult. And one of the misconception in early childhood education is that um, anyone feels that it's very easy to become a preschool teacher, right? It's easy to teach young children. A lot of people look at this profession as a stopgap arrangement. I want to take a break from my regular career, and that's the reason I want to become a preschool teacher. So that mindset change needs to happen. And when we look at hiring teachers, and currently we have almost 1,500 teachers working with us, we are thorough in our process to figure out, one, they should have the requisite skill set, they should have that education background or experience, but at the same time we also look at a couple of other things. For example, they should have a passion for early learning. And when I say passion for early learning, I'm not saying love for children. Both are different. I'm saying that you should be ready to put in some effort and time in upskilling yourself to become a preschool teacher, right? Learn how children learn and help them learn. How do you facilitate that learning in that environment is the passion we are looking for. We look for patience, because when we talk about young children are developmentally obliged to test your patience, right? So if someone will say that, yo, I have two kids, I'm a mother of uh, two toddlers or two children, I said, yeah, very good, you have first hand experience, but are you ready to take care of other 18 as well, is the question we need to ask, right? And the third is flexibility, ability to innovate, embrace change. Because though COVID is an old example, but COVID made us learn many lessons. If we talk about this industry faced a lot of challenge during COVID, because the teachers had to innovate a lot. Having a child behind a screen, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, they had to bring in so much of innovation to engage them. So that flexibility, that learning mindset needs to be there. So I think these are the 3 4 attitude and skills which we look at in teachers, plus the relevant experience and the education background.
Right. In fact, there's a question from one of our audience today asking
Mhm.
whether you have internships available for anyone interested. But I think in some sense you responded to that, because this is not a space where you just walk in because you don't have anything else to do. But on a serious note, if someone who's probably interested or even studying something online, would you kind of encourage internship opportunities for
Yes,
anyone interested?
yes, Rishikesh, as long as they are serious about the profession. right? I mean, if they are, and I'm assuming if they are doing a course in early years education space or education space, they are looking at pursuing their career in this domain. And if the answer is yes, we can look at having internship opportunities for the students, and we can definitely discuss this further.
Right. Yeah.
So beyond early years teachers, how do you see the role of early childhood professionals, in the larger sector itself? Um, yeah.
I think there are many, many career opportunities which are available in this domain. Yes, one is an educator, but if you have been an educator in this role for few years, you can progress to a curriculum coordinator or a curriculum lead whose responsibility is to mentor and support the teachers on ground. Then you can become a trainer in this industry, because there is a high demand for trainer. This is a niche industry, so you need to have that subject matter expertise or knowledge to become a trainer. But if you have that, you can become a trainer. uh, Beyond academics, or you there are other domains as well. You can move into the business side of it, be it sales, marketing. Then while you have that subject matter expertise or knowledge, if you are able to do something around instructional designing, you can become a curriculum developer as well in this domain. You can, if you have additional knowledge or experience or skill of creating digital content, then you can create digital content. There are many edtech companies which are working in this domain, and they look for the relevant kind of a talent who brings in a combination of the subject matter expertise plus the technical skills. If and it's very easy to upskill yourself in that domain. Then sales and marketing is already there, operations is there. If you have that kind of a knowledge, you can get into ops side of it, right? School operations basically. And at the same time, there, and I'm very proud to say that there have been teachers and center heads in our family who actually ended up becoming entrepreneurs. They opened their own schools, right? So entrepreneurship is another option you can look at. So I think the sky is the limit. There are multiple opportunities in this domain, if you uh, wish to look at those opportunities beyond the educator role.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. You've kind of outlined the entire ecosystem, and within the sector itself, and of course the market itself beyond the content has several things, and that's a different dialogue for another time, as to what is that play material available for children to, what do children wear, and all kinds of things. So that of course is a different dialogue to have at some point. Yeah, I think that also.
Kennedy,
Yeah.
I just had a quick
Yes.
question. Though I know we are running out of time,
Right.
but a
Yeah.
quick one, Arshleen, to just try and get some inputs from you on this. Have you seen a significant, let's say, difference in people who come in with qualification uh, for ECCE, any kind? I mean, it could have been a diploma, it could have been just a certificate that they've done, or a full-fledged uh, qualification, educational qualification, play a role which you found significantly different from, let's say, someone who's come in with the passion and those basic requirements, which then you've used to kind of upskill them.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
So Rishikesh, the first preference is always with someone who has a background, either a diploma or educational, or a certificate program in early years education, because they have some sense on how young children love. They have learn, and they are aware of developmentally appropriate practices. They have some sense on classroom management, behavioral challenges we may come across. So yes, it really helps if the candidate has gone through a structured learning program in ECE, versus someone who brings in the passion, but we end up training them in this domain. So yes, our preference is always to the people who come with transferable skills.
Great. Yeah, yeah. Lovely to hear that. I think, one of the reasons why I asked you that also is because at the university, we have designed an exclusive MA education program in ECCE. We've been running diploma for a few years
Mhm.
now, and many practitioners have come in and done their diploma. It's a very unique hybrid model that we have, wherein practitioners, while they continue their work, can also acquire a diploma. And in the coming academic year, we are also launching now a full-fledged master's program. Kinnari, would you like to
Yeah,
share
yeah.
about the program?
Yes, I would, though I was quite curious, Arshleen, as to what's the percentage? Sorry, I think that's the wrong slide. Yeah, what's the percentage of this prepared professionals that you really get, Yeah.
I would say 50-50,
Uh-huh.
Kennedy, because, like I said, there are many teachers who join early years education domain. They either have joined, but they go through some certification while they are on the job,
Mhm.
or they bring in that experience. But yes, there are, I think 50% they bring in that they come with that kind of a background, but it may not be a diploma, it may
Mhm.
be an entity course as well, so some certificate or a Montessori training as well. So I'm not comparing all of these, but
Mhm.
some structured learning they bring in when they come. But yes,
Right.
50% are the ones whom we train, upskill, either through our institute or internal training programs.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
quite a large number that you really
Yes,
need to
yes,
invest in
absolutely.
once they are on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So
Yeah,
I
I
would
mean,
now take
50% would
you
mean,
through.
more than
More than
700 of the
700.
1,500 that you
Yes, yes,
have.
absolutely, Rishikesh. And then
Yeah,
I'm happy to know that you're starting a program in early years education. So, I mean, definitely we can look at some collaboration there as well.
Yeah.
great. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. So just taking our audience through this 2 year Master of Arts in Early Childhood Care and Education. And I think a lot of what you said, Arshleen, today would resonate with the kind of preparedness that our professionals need. This program starts in July 2025. It's a 2 year full-time program for, undergrads from any discipline, or you're intending to change your career pathway and you feel you want to come back to learning and want to pursue a full-time master's. I think this is the space to really check out. Very broadly, the structure and I think the aim of this program, and like all of our programs at the university, are about creating these cadre of critical professional mass in the development sector at large, within education that our MA education program does, and now looking at what the sector has to offer and where we are as a nation, creating this critical mass of informed professionals within the ECCE domain. And that's largely looking at the birth to 8 years of age, looking at the fundamentals and the core curricular aspects in terms of development and learning. It's a very long and detailed kind of course in two parts over the semester 1 and semester 2. Looking at ECCE, a lot of nuances we've been discussing of how you see care, how you see education, differences within the idea of preschools and schools, a whole lot of that. Looking at childhoods itself, what does it mean for an urban child, a child from a nuclear family, a child from rural context, a child with different, contexts within which they are growing up in a society like ours, and how do you locate that for early years education. The policies and programs, I think today we've just kind of entered and touched on this large private sector. At the same time, we have a whole lot of policies that have been guiding from the global, international aspects, as well as our national policy over the last decade or so has really kind of given impetus. So what are these programs, at the public sector level, and what is it that we need to look at as far as the private sector is concerned. Early stimulation, I think the birth to 3 years and the critical focus that it needs a very distinct understanding of this developing child and the role of family, so that's what this particular course focus on. Play, like you mentioned several times, as the very core of early years being for the young child, and therefore what do we do as educators? Research, given that it is a 2-year postgraduate program, having a critical lens to look at things, having a method to your inquiry. So the research course is really an introductory course that all students, irrespective of their backgrounds, would go through. Curriculum for the foundational years, looking at this foundational stage in itself and looking at this 3 to 6 and 6 to 8 continuum is something that we focus on in different domains. What is language and literacy, mathematics and inquiry, in science, early science and scientific inquiry, and professional development, and the socio-emotional aspects. I think sometimes we tend to focus more on the FLN bit, but what is it to prepare individual children and look at their socio-emotional competence is something that we focus on for the schooling period, 3 to 8 foundational period. And then given what the sector demands, while there is a clear work pathway available, how is it that the research pathway gets created? Again, in our country today, we see that there is very little empirical work being done in early years, and very little written about it also. So can we again build this critical mass of researchers in the ECCE space, and a whole range of electives which would kind of help students explore their own area of interest. So this is very broadly about the structure. Those of you who are interested should look out at our website where the more details about this program structure are available. This is our campus, again, to just give you a view. This is the Bangalore campus where Rishi and I teach and where this MA and ECCE will be offered. Azim Premji University has its second campus in Bhopal, where several postgraduate programs are offered as well as undergraduate programs. Looking at the eligibility criteria, like I just mentioned, that you can be a graduate in any discipline really to take the entrance test. We do have an entrance test. It's a welcoming, inclusive entrance test, though we have some critical skills and capabilities that we tend to check there, which is on English comprehension, quantitative skills, and general knowledge. CUET, again, many students across the country write the common entrance exam, and therefore if you have opted for it, and then if you select, once you get your CUET scores, if you select this particular university and the program, you kind of get an entry into the program without going through the national entrance test of Azim Premji University. Like we said, that you need to be a practitioner with a heart and a mind to really come into the domain, right? That's all that we need, and then invest this 2 years and the long-term career within this domain. So as an MA in ECCE, anybody interested with the core undergrad degree and one of these two cleared, the CUET or the national entrance test is what, and you become eligible to take this program. Very quickly, I think before our applications close, March 6th, that is tomorrow, that's the last day of application for writing our national entrance tests and really applying for the university's admissions across the postgraduate programs, not just the MA-ECCE. The national entrance test, if you are taking the Azim Premji University's test, it will be on the April 6th, and tests are held across the country, 30-odd centers. This will be followed by a personal interview with the faculty members in around May and June, and then classes begin in July. And you are welcome to kind of check out the YouTube channel to get a virtual experience of the campus. You can also visit the campus here in person. It is a modern, state-of-the-art facilities campus. Like we say, it's a campus, and our programs are about excellence, and financial assistance for those needed is also provided. So that's broadly taking you through the program. We hope that over time we would have this critical mass really getting interested and seeing the potential of the domain. Arshleen, what we notice is that there is very little we talk about early years in our country, and very little scope that we see as the society, and therefore dialogues like this and with you really help us get a deeper perspective, and our audience get a deeper perspective for the sector itself. So thank you for your time. We've overshot.
But then even though we've overshot, Kinnari, I think 2 questions on our program. So if we can quickly address it, because they can be addressed. One is we have one of our audience asking what's the difference between child psychology and this course. I mean, obviously, child psychology would be something that would be part of a course that we would have in this program. But if you could just throw some light on that. And then we have one more question asking if this course is more for early childhood care, or is it early childhood education? So very quickly,
so I'll take the second question first. The program is for early childhood care and education, and like we've been saying, we need to see this continuum, for young children, very young children, from birth to 3 years of age, and then look at care and education as a continuum for 3 to 6 and then 6 to 8. So it's really not a particular focused kind of a program, not just care and not just education. We're really hoping to build this perspective of what is it when we talk of safety for a 6-month-old is very different from talking for safety for a 6-year-old, right? And is safety even an aspect of care, right? Similarly, health and nutrition, looking at children's exploratory capabilities, looking at parental engagement, and how does this change with this growing child? How does the notion of care change with the growing child and the child's requirements? So it is really the care and education on the continuum up to children of 8 years of age. In the curricular courses, we do see a need to focus on 3 to 6, and therefore we have a course on the birth to 3 and a course on early stimulation. And similarly, we need to really understand what is it that this preschool is about, what our speaker today was sharing, and what is it that is the foundational stage is about. So when you are looking at an engagement in the current context in our country, looking at the foundational stage itself becomes critical, and therefore we will look at educational components for the foundational stage in a very detailed manner, right? And it has a good number of credits attached as far as the foundational stage curriculum and requirements are concerned. So I hope that kind of answers question from Nandini Raman. Mrishti Raman is asking if there is what's the difference between a course on child psychology. Now, child psychology, underlying domain within which that falls is psychology, right? Whereas when we look at early childhood as a domain of study, it's a period of study within the larger developmental psychology realm, right? So, and developmental psychology again looks at several phases of development, and early childhood is a critical phase of development. So while we look at the psychological elements and developmental elements, I wouldn't just say psychological, but the developmental elements that builds the core of understanding the child, the theoretical aspects, domain-specific theories that inform how you work with children. But it goes much beyond just psychology, right? It goes into pedagogy, it goes into research, it goes into engaging with children, with communities, with parents. So what I actually did not share in the program structure in that much detail is the field component, right? We are in a very diverse early childhood space in our country. What an Anganwadi child experiences and what a child going to a private preschool such as KLAY is extremely different. And therefore, what is it that you are talking about? You're talking about resources very differently. You're talking about engagement very differently, though the principles of development remain the same, right? So a whole lot of our foundational courses, the core courses, really focus on the principles and then looking at its application in this diverse sector that we are in, diverse context that our children are in. So it is a different course. I mean, if you want to look at counseling, if you want to look at pure child psychology, then that's a different domain to look at. You need to apply into a department of psychology. But if you're looking yourself as a practitioner, within the domain, directly engaging with children and for children's well-being, right? You're not on the therapeutic end, but you are on an educational end, really. And that's where a program like this finds its niche and finds its relevance. And unfortunately, in our country, again, we do not have this critical mass of professionals who look at the developmental end. We either have intervention specialist, speech therapist, you may have occupational therapist, you may have counselors in schools. They are in that sense defined professions to engage in, but looking at this developmental end, educational end, we don't have that critical mass. And I think the university here and several other universities today in our country, home science departments have been trying to do that for several decades. So we are at that phase, right, where we feel that today our country recognizes this need. We need to have more qualified professionals and professionals for a large range. So this is not a teacher education program, but given that today in our country there is no real regulation for becoming an early childhood practitioner, you don't really need a B.Ed, you will need domain knowledge, right? So it will prepare you to be an educator, and say the tech-based educator or the school ops person that Arshleen was trying to tell us, that there is just so much to do, and depending on your niche, your qualification, all of that, and your interest, how you see yourself as a professional, you can really figure that through this immersion, 2 years thorough immersion into the domain, and then see your career pathways going forward. Yeah, so that's a long answer, but I hope it clarifies.
Yeah, that was very comprehensive, Kinnari, a very comprehensive response. Thank you. And we've clearly overshot our time today. So thank you so much, Arshleen, and sorry for keeping you for more time than what we had asked you for. It was really lovely speaking to you and understanding this space. As Kinnari said, something that we all need to be aware of is the entire wide spectrum, right? The diverse kinds of environments that our children are in currently, and all of them are as important if we are looking at building society and build towards building the kind of nation that we want to. And given the importance of early childhood, all these spaces are just as important. And for coming on to our webinar and sharing those insights, we are really very grateful to you. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Arshleen. It was a very insightful session.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kinnari and Rishikesh. And I must tell you that the program is a thought through, it looks very comprehensive. So good luck for that. And I would obviously request the educators or prospective educators or people who want to pursue career in this domain to look at such structured programs, because this is really, really helpful in establishing a career in this domain. So yeah, so good luck to both of you for this program, and thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Arshleen.
Yeah, thanks to all the audience. And Kinnari, we are going to now move into a monthly, right?
Yes, a monthly routine. So we will see you all in April, and do check out our website and other emails that you keep receiving from the university. And we will continue this series. I think that has given us so much insight, broadened the perspective. And it's amazing to hear from audience on all kinds of platforms to say that thank you for having this dialogue. And that just acknowledges, endorses this effort to create a larger domain and advocate about the domain understanding. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. Many of you join us for every episode, so thank you for that. That again is very encouraging. Yeah, and see you all in April again.
Yes, and for those interested in the program, tomorrow is the last day for the application.
Yeah.
See you all. Thanks.
See you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.